Hey guys, so today is the day that I've been waiting for so long. We are finally in our Summer of Love series on Amazing People, and I am sharing this time with several incredible women that I can't wait for you to meet. We are focusing on this book, which is Redeeming Love, that I've read recently, and I know that you've probably read this book, and if you haven't, you should. It's an amazing, dynamic, awesome experience and journey. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. We'll be talking about relationships and how this has affected our lives. But before we go there, I want to introduce these ladies to you. So they're going to introduce themselves one at a time.
My name is Linda Nickerson, and I've been married for 37 years. I've got 16 children. Oh, no, I don't. I had... Hi. I'm Linda, and I have 6 children, and I have 16 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren, and just love them so much.
I'm Lucy Betcher. I'm pursuing nursing at KSU, and I'm 17 years old.
Hi there, I'm Nicole. I have been married for 20 years next month, and I have 4 children, 3 girls and a boy, and I can't wait to share this book with you.
I'm Destiny Easton, and I go to Chattahoochee Tech, and I'm 18 years old.
I'm Kristen Little. I've been married for 12 years, and I have 3 little girls, and I can't wait to share what this book has meant to me.
Okay, ladies. First, tell me when you first read this book, what stage of life were you in?
Gosh, I read the book a long time ago. I think probably when it first came out, and I was just mesmerized by it. It really was life-changing for me to see somebody go through something so horrific like that and being able to come out on the other side. It was awful. I can't imagine being in that position.
Mm-hmm. Kristen, what stage of life were you in?
I was in my early 20s, and just, personally having searched for love, and it just spoke volumes to me. It was just the right time to be reading that book.
Mm-hmm. Well, I read this book just a couple of weeks ago, finished it a couple of weeks ago, and Redeeming Love is basically a journey of a girl who was abandoned by both her mother and her father. And she journeyed through life. She was sold into prostitution at a very early age, and she really just built up many, many walls to protect herself. She was later found by a wonderful, godly man who sought her out and gave her unconditional love. And really, in the end, it set her free. And so that's what this book is about. So let's just start from when Angel, you'll know that she gets many names in this book, but let's start off talking about when Angel was young and the relationship between her parents, how that affected her life. I mean, what did you take away when you saw as a child, she's sitting there listening to them talk about her and her daddy just basically like she doesn't even exist, you know? What impact did that have on you?
It broke my heart. I don't have that problem. I've had a great relationship with my parents. But to see her not have any, no friends, no relatives, no cousins, nobody to be there for her, and even her own mom was so wrapped up in a man rather than her daughter was just so heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I read this book the first time. I've read it like 4 or 5 times. But the first time was when my girls were just beginning to get into the stage of their life where boys were becoming something that was interesting, and for me to be able to read it and enjoy it with them and experience that, I think it gives them a better understanding of people in general. There's so many people that are hurting, and a lot of them have something in their life that puts them in that position. Mm-hmm. And I think, there's a lot of kids at school that are maybe awkward or different, and I always tell them, look, there's something more to that. There's a reason that they're that way.
Exactly.
And this really gives you an understanding of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think I was torn myself, I think, because just you can tell she loves her daughter so much and is giving as much as she possibly can, but she also is so in love with this guy and so desperate for him to, be a part of her life. And, just like Angel later in the book is seeking that, somebody to depend on and to provide for her, out of anger and other things. But her mom, in the same way, just wanted somebody to be there. And I think she was torn between her love for her daughter, which is like instinct love, maternal love, but also being so in love with this man.
Right. And honestly, don't we know many women that have been in that situation where they're torn. They're just torn. They love someone, which is a significant other, but then that person, I know women like that. And not that I can't say that I really have compassion, because when it comes onto my kids, there's just no option.
Yes.
But I can totally see how, as she grew in the different stages of her life, how she started to repeat the same patterns.
Right.
And so tell me, when you started to see that, did you think it's amazing how, as a child, with your parents, you can look at what they do and despise it, but then you start repeating some of the same things in your life? Tell me about that pattern. How do you think that happens? Why is it that we repeat the same patterns that that was demonstrated before us when we were children?
I think it just kind of makes an imprint on your life. I mean, there's been a few times where I've looked in the mirror and said, oh my gosh, I'm my mother. I've done exactly what I said that I wouldn't do. My mother was awesome, but we just make mistakes as parents growing up, and sometimes the very thing that doesn't work well with you, you try and repeat again throughout your life, only to find out that this is not working.
Yes.
But I think you just she just had such a feeling of hopelessness. That just resonated, just continually, and she seemed to be let down. Every turn there was another letdown. And that was just really hard to read, so discouraging.
I just cannot imagine being a child and being sold into prostitution and having to be used and abused and taken advantage of by men. And then the beatings. Oh, let's talk about the beatings that she had to live through. By men. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to get in a fight with a girl, but by men. I mean, that just had such a deep impact on me, because the scars can remain, physically, but you can see the emotional damage throughout her life. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well, the way that the first man that had her, how he had so much control over her life, he was able to take away her ability to have children. He played God in her life, and so I think that set a huge imprint that a man is supposed to control that, and you're just a slave to a man. So the fact that she had her rights taken away so young, and she had nothing to do with that, was just so heartbreaking.
I just thought how quickly, like, anger and bitterness and just having to use that to survive, to be angry so you can get through things, to have, like, thick skin so that way you don't have to, like, experience that raw pain. It just was interesting to me how fast that sets in, you know what I mean? Like, just survival mode, like what I need to do emotionally to survive, physically to survive, all that stuff.
I can definitely relate to some of that, having lost my mother at a very early age, and then my dad kind of abandoning me when I was 14 after my mother passed, and just living on my own and surviving and going to 4 different schools and trying to figure life out on my own. So I understand that anger and those walls that you put up, and you start getting into relationships as an adult, and you start saying, oh, that's where it comes from. That's where that anger comes. Why am I acting this way? Why am I behaving this way? Why don't I trust anybody? And that's when you realize, it comes from your childhood. I mean, can anyone share I know, Kristen, you've gone through some things. Can you share where it comes onto those walls, and what did you do in your life to break down those walls and allow yourself to be vulnerable to receive love?
I think just, searching for love and just wanting someone to show me that love, and just, from a very early age, searching for it in boys and expecting them to fill those voids where no man in this world could have ever filled. And if you don't deal with it, you just carry it from one relationship on to the next. And you can't ever expect anyone to fill those voids. And So ultimately just finding it in my Heavenly Father, Him, allowing Him in to fill those voids, and He did, and He was faithful to do that.
Yeah. I so want to fast forward through this book. Honestly, it's like the temptation is just to go forward and tell you more, but we're going to try to stay in the beginning of the book. But if the two of you can speak to this, I mean, you 20 years married, and then how many years?
37.
37 years. Tell me about the journey as far as that's concerned. I mean, I know both of you. I feel like I know you fairly well, and I've watched your marriages, and I admire. I really do admire your marriages. And please tell our audience, you know, what is it? Help them, help us to understand what is it that keeps it so honoring and so fruitful and so loving, because it radiates. When we're around you all, it radiates. So help us with that.
Well, for me, you know, I was 15 when I got pregnant with my daughter, and I was 16 when I got married, and what a journey. There were several nights being at home in the beginning where it was, you know, I would lay in bed at night and think, you know, maybe I'll just forget this happened, I'll just go home, I'll just be a teenager again, you know, that. I remember the feeling of wanting my dad to be in control of my life again. You know, tell me what to do, like, tell me I'm not allowed to go there, you know, something.
Right.
And it was really hard. So it was a really hard struggle to begin with, but early on, you know, I was, let me see, April, May, I was 8 months pregnant with her when I gave my life to the Lord. And it was amazing. It was such a difference in the way that my husband and I looked at each other, the way that we knew we would raise her, and how we would spend our life. And that commitment we made together. And from that point forward, we just always looked for that guidance. And my parents were an amazing role model in their love for each other as well. I can remember distinctly as a little girl getting in the car one morning to go to school, and my dad had set the radio to a special song that he wanted my mom to hear. And it's not really that big of a deal, but to me as a little girl, I thought, man, he really loves her. And it stuck with me. And it's something that has always carried me through moments of, you know what, my husband loves me unconditionally, and I return that to him. And we've just always focused on that. We've made it a point to make it about me and him, and then the kids, which so often when people have children, their lives become their children's lives, and they forget that it all started here. And it's so important to keep that dating alive, and that importance of being with each other, because happy parents and love parents create good parents.
That's good. That is good.
That is good, Nicole.
Goodness.
Well, if you didn't know, this is mother and daughter. So this is why we're asking for both of them to share, because look at the pattern. I mean, obviously they modeled it, and now it's happening again in the next generation, and I'm sure it will continue on to the next generation. So it really doesn't matter what you model before your children. So tell us.
Well,
And with that being said, it wasn't always that case. I too was pregnant before marriage, and that was a really difficult time for me. I was very young, and ended up having 3 children, and then finding someone else, and then who already had 2 children, and then we had a child, and so we found ourselves in this relationship with 6 children at a very, very early age. And so that was a real tough thing to go through, and we struggled through it. And I think it's only because of the grace of God that we came through it. We didn't come to know Him, to receive Him, and to have a part of Him in our lives until the children started getting a lot older. So it's interesting to hear Nicole say there are some things she remembers in childhood that have, you know, she's kept in her heart all this time about us. We always have had a love for each other, but it never really grew as strong as it is today until we became Christians. And when that happened, I mean, you know, the sunglasses come off of your eyes, and you see the crop that you have sown, and it comes up, you know, and then you deal with that. And so I think how we are still together today is because of His grace, quite honestly. And you know, you give up the selfishness of an individual in a relationship and you always focus on that other person. It is not a 50-50 give and give in a relationship, in a marriage. It's 100%. No matter what he gives, you do, and vice versa.
That's good.
And that's what's
good.
absolutely solidified us, that and just, that God is gracious. Who are we not to be? You know?
That is such a takeaway. That is such a takeaway. So with the two of you being the younger ones in this group, I kind of want you to share a little bit about when Angel was a teenager and she was going through these horrific experiences, and all of the young girls that are watching that are going through tough relationships or trying to find their way, searching for love, they're in the middle of it. We can talk about, coming to the other side of that later, but tell me about that part, searching for that love, searching for that validation, and what would you say to them? What would you say to them in the middle of this, the wounds, the hurts, the abandonment, the rejection, the trying to find yourself, the insecurity, you know what I mean? All those things. What would y'all say?
I would definitely say that as a teenage girl, Hollywood paints a picture for you of what a perfect relationship is and what you should have, and there's no God in that. And so I think us as women, when we're younger, we are so desperate to be loved and kissed and hugged and all the sweet little quotes and everything said to us. And then even when you have that, it's not fulfilling because it's not from the Lord. So I feel like even if young girls have a relationship with the Lord and they have a good relationship with a guy, it's still so important to recognize that he's only a guy.
And he's
and
not
he
your
can
God.
only do so much. He's
Right.
not your God. Even if you do know the Lord, like, to balance that, if it's overwhelming, just drop the guy, because losing the Lord and picking up too much love from a guy, you're still going to be left empty.
So good.
But I think just like a lot of girls who are hurting and who have been abused and stuff, they kind of skip over that growing up stage and go to this like hurting place, and they kind of miss out on, like Angel, I don't think she didn't really struggle as much with because she was so hurt, like those things kind of like body image and insecurities and finding herself, she didn't really get that chance to do those things, which a lot of girls miss when they are going through such hard stuff. They just go to this place of bitterness and anger, and they don't really get a chance to develop themselves. And I think what was so cool about the book is that she got to this place where, with Michael Hosea, where he kind of was, it was like an unraveling in her relationship with God, which I don't think she saw yet. I mean, even when she didn't have a relationship with him, she had a relationship with him, and it was filled with anger, but she had one, and I think he was slowly unraveling all these wounds and all this pain and bringing her to this place where she can find herself, and and then she started to healthily experience these insecurities and with Miriam, and just kind of like, I don't like that, feel some jealousy, feel blush and feel embarrassed, so she kind of started like
To feel.
right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's amazing how when you watch her life, she just didn't allow herself to feel.
Right.
And there were moments where she started to feel, and she would, put that wall back up because she didn't want to feel. And so it is really cool to watch her allow herself to feel real emotions, even if they're negative or they're, but just be a real human being, with emotions. So one thing I will tell you guys is that there is an amazing man named Michael Hosea that comes into play in this book. And he is godly and beautiful physically and emotionally. And he really, really demonstrates unconditional love and the love that God has for us, but in the flesh. And we are not going to talk about that today because that's going to be in the next series, but in the next segment. But I will tell you that that is coming. But I'm going to give you all an opportunity to just chat about your favorite parts of this book. So tell us your favorite parts and where it led you and what it made you think about.
There were so many favorite parts in that book. And I say favorite, but maybe ones that have really, sat with me, and especially in the beginning of the book. You know, because it just starts off with a bang and you're just horrified. You know, at somebody going through something so horrendous as that. But I think one of the parts that really got to me in the beginning was when she, as a little girl, how she heard for the first time of how her father wanted nothing to do with her, and how she, you know, her mother had gone through great lengths to curl her hair and to have the attractiveness of her make the difference, and how that did nothing at all for her. And just, I can't imagine what it would be like to be a little girl and to have that kind of, you know, reaction from your own father. That's got to be very difficult. That
Okay,
really
but
sat with me.
in addition to that, did it not kind of blow you away at, even though her mother was torn, she really loved her. Like she would give her the gifts that her father would send for her,
Yeah.
but she'd give them to her daughter,
Yeah.
you know, just so that her daughter could feel valued. And,
Right.
you know, and he, of course, didn't know about it, but that's a mother's love. Even
Yes.
though she was twisted,
Yes.
she still really loved her child.
Which so many women today, single moms, are having to do. They're providing the father figure in the
Yes.
child's life. And to
Yes.
me, she was trying to make her feel like her father loved her,
Yes.
even though he didn't. And a lot of women struggle with that today. And that's, she was trying to fill that void when, in a sense, really the Heavenly Father needed to fill that void.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really good point, because in her desperation,
Yes.
she's lying to her daughter.
Right.
And when her daughter found out about it, it even made
It's
it
even more
even
hurtful.
more
Deeper.
hurtful.
Yes. Yes.
Because what you think is happening is not happening. It's even more of a letdown.
It is.
Right.
They really did. What else? What else did you love?
If I can skip a little bit towards the end,
Yeah.
just real quick.
Yeah.
Oh no.
See?
Oh no.
It's so difficult.
It's so hard not to go to the end of the book.
I think the plot twister for me was, well, she had been leaving and coming back by force
Yeah.
and leaving, and then when she left the last time and she left for herself and to find the Lord, blew me away, because I know that I'm not strong enough, or I wasn't strong enough to leave the comfort of a man. She finally figured out that Michael Hosea really loved her and cared about her, and she would be perfectly happy and satisfied right there without God. But she knew that she wanted that. She wanted what Michael Hosea had. So when she leaves to go find the Lord by herself, it gave me so much courage and strength
Yeah.
to know that, you know, if she can do it, someone who's gone through prostitution and anger and hatred, and then she can leave and go on her own to find the Lord, was just,
It's huge.
it was huge to me.
Yeah, it's huge.
So cool.
Can I say that I was really mad at Angel? I'm sure that
Oh my
Destiny,
gosh.
you had such compassion for her the whole way through, but by the second or third time she was leaving, I was done. I'm like, she leaves
Yeah.
again, I'm not reading, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, enough is enough already.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I just had that like feeling, but then when she found Christ and she had to leave to find him for herself. And that was the beauty in it all, is that Michael Hosea was becoming her God.
Yes.
And
Right.
that's why God said, do not go get her this time. She needs to find me, because you're becoming her God.
I wasn't
you know?
expecting that.
Yeah,
I thought
I wasn't
maybe,
either.
she'll just find God with Michael Hosea on a mountain and it's really cute.
Right,
But
right.
she went on.
Sunrises.
Yeah, one of those gorgeous sunrises
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Well, there were many times as well that I was angry with him on a human level. Like, are you kidding me? You're going after her again?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
obviously she doesn't want you.
Right.
You know, and I was like, how could you, like, just keep throwing yourself
agree.
out there like that?
This is such a good guy.
Yes, and it just broke my heart, and it sat with me like, that's what the Lord does for us. No matter how many times we go back to the same thing that we've given up, we go back and pick up our baggage that we've left at his feet, and we bring it with us again.
Yep.
He's like, okay, and he's
Right.
just waiting for you. Okay, return it again. I'm still here. Amazing to me was the figure in Michael Hosea, even more so than an angel. Just amazed me how he just followed the Lord in every word he said, and was strong enough to stand up as a man against a lot of attacks that were coming his way from family and friends for what he was doing, but he stood strong in the Lord.
And in the earlier part of the book, when her mother was pregnant with her, her family turned against her.
Yes.
And her church would not receive her.
Yes.
And that was so disheartening to see
Yeah.
that, you know, the church turned their back on you. And
Yes.
Jesus would never do that.
Never.
Ever.
No, he would never do that. You know, the thing is that we can use our journey and we can use it for good and we can use it to help someone else, you know, and so we don't have to despise the journey, you know, we just have to try to use the journey to be a better person, to mother someone, to be a great friend to someone, to be a sister to someone, you know, I mean, and that's why I feel like everybody's journey is so important and so relevant. So it's a journey. I mean, the book, you really do get lost in the world that they're in, and honestly, you kind of think you're there, and you have to come back to your family and your home and cook and clean and stuff like that. So we are going to wrap up this session of Summer of Love, the Summer of Love series focusing on redeeming love. But we have 2 more coming, and we're going to be airing the shows in July and in August. So stay tuned. Honestly, it just gets better when we start talking about the pursuit of Michael Hosea, of this girl who's a prostitute, and how he rescues her and sets her free through the love that God's put in him. It is truly a journey, honestly, and I think you'll learn a whole lot. So thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Girls, share this with all your girlfriends, because there's healing that's going to take place here. You're going to learn some amazing things from some wise people, people that have been married a long time, and they've got it down. So we want to learn from them and absorb every bit of it that we possibly can. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned. Summer of Love, amazing people, and we will see y'all soon. Bye.